Good evening, everyone. I'm told it's 6 o'clock. Oh, I didn't hear the clock. So, welcome to this exec. There's a lot of people here tonight, so welcome to the executive this evening. Apologies for absence. None, Chair? No, okay. Can I sign the published report of the meeting for the 3rd of March, please? Thank you. Remind members of section 106 this evening. We have no business not covered by the current forward plan, and we have no business of special urgency, but we do have references from population wealth, well-being, a reference from Overunion Scrutiny Board. Can I take that with number 9, which refers to the Food and Standards Board?
Yes, you may. I'm here at the request of Democratic Services for that item.
Okay, fine, that's brilliant. All right, Kachita, we'll take that with your... yeah, okay. No other recommendations from scrutiny, no petitions, and we move on to item 8 and the new economic growth strategy. James.
Thank you, Hazel. So just to introduce the economic growth strategy, so the document is draft at the moment and sort of we're proposing to go out and consult on it. So this new strategy is a pivotal document that will shape the future of our town and sets out how we'll deliver long-term sustainable economic growth. Crucially, this growth will be fair and equitable, creating opportunities for all. Inclusive growth is not just a component, but the very essence of our strategy. It is key to delivering the Luton 2040 vision and is fully aligned with our other 4 2040 priorities. Over the past 9 months, we have engaged in extensive collaborative work with a diverse range of stakeholders. This collective effort has been instrumental in building the evidence base, shaping the draft strategy, which is now ready to go up for public consultation. The strategy sets out the following: transformational opportunities, the alignment of our strategy with the government's growth agenda, our grand challenges, our strategic ambitions, the strategic framework for economic growth in Luton under the following themes: a more productive economy, a more resilient economy, a more inclusive economy, and the cross-cutting theme, a fair transition to a green economy. The strategy clearly sets out the targets for the next 7 years and the expected impacts and outcomes. This approach ensures that everyone from local government, business to community stakeholders are well informed about the role they can play in delivering long-term sustainable economic growth for Luton. Alongside this work, the Council are refreshing its skills and employment plan, which also ties in with the education reset, and this work will be reported to members in the summer. Of particular focus in the strategy which we've brought forward is bringing people who are not economically active back into the workforce and ensuring we have adequate transport links to get people to work. The Executive is now asked to improve the consultation going live from the 8th of April. This is a crucial step that underscores our commitment to ensuring that our strategy is informed by the views and needs of our business community and residents. The extensive stakeholder engagement plan, which will circulate with the papers, will further enrich our understanding and implementation of the strategy. So with that, I move the recommendations as set out on page 1. Approve the draft economic growth strategy for public consultation, approve the consultation and engagement plan for economic growth, and approve the formal consultation beginning 8th of April until 6th of May. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Are there any questions? Yes, Maria.
Thanks, James. My question is, the 4 weeks consultation, would that be enough? Good time?
I think we're sort of keen to engage. I think it's what was guided by Democratic Services. I think that's a sort of minimum. But as I say, we have done extensive consultations already with a lot of key stakeholders. This is now going out with what they've said to the general public. We will be encouraging people. I've filmed a couple of videos already that will be going out to promote people, to promote the links. But as I say, a lot of key partners will have already seen the strategy and fed into it.
Okay, Maria. Anybody else? Amjad.
Thank you, Chair. So, James, with this, are we going to then reapproach Arriva, because their latest timetable changes last year caused a lot of issues in some of the areas in Luton? Does this mean that we will be going back to Arriva, asking them to revise some of the changes?
Would it be the 100, the 101 you'd be referring to?
Yes, that is included in what I was thinking of, yes.
Yeah, I use that bus quite regularly, so yeah, I'm well aware of those changes and the fact that it doesn't go along Wigmore Lane. But yeah, strategic transport planning is a key part of it, making sure, you know, there's no point having all the jobs over here if people can't get to them, and public transport is a key part of that. So Arriva definitely will be a partner in a stakeholder engagement, and bus timetables play an important role in getting people to those opportunities to make sure they can get to work. So yeah, they're a key partner, a key stakeholder that we will approach and talk.
Perfect, thank you. We would be more than happy to assist you and spread the consultation within our areas as well.
Okay, thank you, Amjad. Javid.
Thank you. Just a few questions on some sort of just clarification I need. Page 82, the construction sector within Luton employs 4,000 people and contributes approximately 260. The sector, however, has been declining, and since 2000, the sector has shrunk by 20% in employment terms. Is that really correct? Because all I see is a lot of buildings in Luton, and I'm surprised that the construction sector has shrunk 20% when I look at all the new developments that we've got in there. I don't know if we need to, if Sinead or somebody knows the answer to that, because that doesn't stack up with all the building work I've seen going on.
I understand it, and these are figures that WSP would have worked on. I think they're sort of high-level figures. I don't think they're going out there doing surveys, but it's an interesting one. I think we'll take that away and see how they've arrived at that. But we know construction is a sector we need to grow. We need to grow, and we need to develop the skills in there as well to make sure people are ready to go into those jobs that we're developing.
Okay, and following on from that, page 83, size of the opportunity. The construction sector in Luton has experienced no growth since 2017. However, significant capital programs, London Leadership and Luton Center can provide impetus for local employment. Increase of construction sectors will 25% yield. I guess that's the crux, isn't it? Making sure that we've got the skills and got the people who can do it, because we've got £5 billion worth of investment coming into our town or surrounding areas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting those skills, and that skills pipeline, you know, Barnfield College, absolutely key consultee in this, making sure we've got people ready to move into those jobs. Obviously, we've got Airport, we've got Power Core, and today we were talking with Goodman as well. They want to put in a large investment into the Old Vauxhall site, but we always talk about the importance of having local people taking on those jobs and working in the construction sector as well.
So, page 119. There are, however, threats from the adaptation of automation and AI. The Centre for Statistics estimated that by 2000, approximately 20% of Luton's occupations were likely to shrink. Now, have we factored in, obviously, if we lose 20,000 jobs and we're allowed to create 16,000 jobs, what does that mean in terms of net? Because obviously, I understand we have to go to AI, but how are we going to think about how we're going to replace those jobs? Because if we lose 20,000 with what we've had with Vauxhall and all that, that's a massive, you know, that'll be a massive loss to our people, and we're already living in poverty and struggling to pay their bills.
So I think this is a sort of question that I think people are asking themselves, not just nationally, globally as well. And the way some interpretations I've seen it, it's basically, it might not mean that those jobs disappear, it means that those jobs might evolve. There'll be people that don't work with AI, maybe we'll see their share of market shrink, whereas people have to evolve and work with AI to improve productivity. And then there's some things, but it will never replace completely, but it will just be people who adapt and work better with it. So I get the point, and it's something that's gripping companies across the world and governments across the world. I don't think anyone fully has the answer to it yet, but we need to make sure that we're integrating it with businesses that exist and working with companies. And we actually just signed a partnership agreement with University of Bedfordshire, looking at how AI is going to be used in the modern workplace and making sure that we make the best use of it.
Absolutely. I think that's the point. I was just want to make sure that we keep mind of it. That much as we want AI and the skill, what it offers us, we've just got to be careful that we don't, you know, we have enough jobs for residents. Next one, page 130, on figure 3.3, the projects. This projects there will be approximately 280,500 residents in Luton in 2043. Really, do we really think the population is going to grow that much in Luton?
So those are ONS figures. I think that's the stated source. I think they've laid out the formula for how they've arrived at that figure. But I've seen other reports we work on where someone was estimating the Luton population would go down. I don't think it will. I think it is going to go up, and that's why we know as well that housing is an absolutely key challenge. We need to make sure that we're delivering on housing and good quality housing as well for the workforce.
Okay. And on the flip side of that, WSP, page 157, Luton's age structure is significantly different from its comparators with a relatively younger population, larger share. Looking at ONS population, projections suggest the Luton population will fall to approximately 201,800 in 2043. So 1 minute, so can you see what I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how did they get this wrong? You know, 80,000 difference. So we need to go back to WSP and say, look, yeah, I don't know how you put it together, but they really haven't, I don't think they've done themselves justice there, because 80,000 in their own figures in the report they put there.
Yeah, there's a discrepancy there.
So we can just flag that back to them. And also, one of the things I think is disingenuous, we keep talking about actively people who are not looking for jobs. I think we want to make sure that we split out the ones who can't take a job yet, because I've seen in there, because they're carers. So that's also nothing. And I think I've raised in the council here that we should look at creating more 16-hour jobs so that people can still claim universal credit whilst also being able to legally work 16 hours without having to keep going back and re-changing their claim. I think those type of part-time jobs as well, we should be sort of, in any economic growth year, we should be trying to create part-time roles for people who can then be carers, look after their ones. I think that's important that we pick that up as well, somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it's absolutely important that employers are adapted to the workforce and that's what we do. But yeah, getting someone into a 16-hour job is certainly more advantageous for us as a town economy than someone not doing anything. And so certainly we'll look to work with government as well to lobby around those rules around carers and universal credit and that particularly big taper drop-off that we see as well when people work one more hour than 16.
Okay, and also page 156, the average monthly rent price in Luton as of September 2024 was 1,118. I think we'd be very lucky if you could find anything in Luton. I think that figure needs adjusting. The rents are, I'm looking at Tom over there, I'm sure the rents are more like 1,400, starting from 1,400 onwards. It's not that. I'm asking for a factual correction, so I think we need to look at that as well, because I think the cost of living in the rental price in Luton has gone astronomically high. You know, I don't think this is truly representative.
I'm just looking at it sort of, that's the most recent data they had available. We can check the source of it, but they can only, I think there's a feeling out there that it has increased, but it's an average as well, so it can skew because there may be a lot of cheaper rents available. Probably not the highest quality, not that we may want to live in or encourage, but they can skew an average down. I
think that's, and then page 159, if you look at the second from last paragraph, rent in Luton averaged 850 in 2022 and 2023. That's really, I'd like to see the latest data on that from WSP to put something in a bit closer to where we are today, because those figures again are not, don't sound representative of what Luton is. People want to live in Luton. People are paying a lot of heavy rents to live in Luton. You know, people do want to live in Luton. I think we sell ourselves short. God, just...
Okay,
just
yeah.
one more.
One more, okay.
Yeah, I'm almost. I think I've lost that page now. Okay, lost my page. Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll add two things also. Another is there should be mention about all of this is for economic growth. You've got to have a strategy, because one of the first things people talk about is how do I go to my work and all that. There's no reference to LTP5 that we're going through at the moment, because I think that's an integral piece of work, and also the local plan about housing and identifying the land, because we haven't got the land in Luton. How are we going to create these jobs? I think that's important bit. And also I think we should have some mention of maybe having an ambition of bus franchising, because as Councillor Amjad said, Arriva dictate the routes. Bus franchising will be able to dictate routes. Thank you for all the comments. Let me make so many comments. Thank you.
I would 100% support obviously bringing bus in-house, and I think it's going to be a key part of any devolution deal that comes forward. When we talk with our partners about developing a sustainable transport plan that goes across any devolution area. So yeah, 100% support that.
Thank you.
Okay, Bassett.
Thank you, James. I think it's a comprehensive and ambitious vision for Luton. Thank you for the report. Just as well as kind of encouraging investment and innovation and new projects, I think we've still got a lot of work to unlock the economic potential we've already got in the town. So I noticed it said people with English as additional language, people who specifically from South Asian community, economically inactive women. What's being done in terms of the consultation and messaging to overcome those barriers to ensure that we unlock the economic potential of our current residents?
So yeah, I absolutely understand the point around those not economically active, but taking into account what Javad's saying about people caring as well. It's absolutely key because we do know we have a high proportion of people who are not economically active, be they NEETs or people that withdrawn from the workforce because of those responsibilities. So reaching out to them is going to be key. And I know we're running events in the community. I'm not 100% on what specific outreach ones we're doing. If I could ask Sinead what's on the consultations plan on that?
So the main public ones are in the shopping centre, and then there are some out in the community. I think there's one at Futures House, there's one at Stopsley in Inspire, and then we'll communicate through our job fairs and things where we're engaging regularly with the community and encouraging our partners to do similar as well. So it's reaching as many as we can.
But around that, we'll pay our own responsibility as well in directing people towards this as ourselves, as councillors, saying, make sure you fill this in, we want to hear from as broad a range of people as possible.
Okay, okay, Javeria.
Thank you, Chair. I think just want to make a comment particularly for members of the public for whom this is live streamed. So when we talk about a productive, inclusive and resilient economy, what underpins that is labour. It's about jobs. And what we will be doing, 100%, I can guarantee you, when we talk about productivity, inclusivity and resilient, it's about ensuring that we are able to provide support to residents with the vast majority of different circumstances. So that includes people who are carers, people who are from particularly, for example, thinking from the cuff of my head, is our Southeast Asian women who are inactive at this moment in time for all sorts of various reasons that want to enter the jobs market. So it's about harnessing that and providing them and equipping them with the skills and opportunities that are available. So when we talk about resilience, inclusivity, we actually absolutely mean that. And there will be a lot of work as part of this is the employment and skills refresh strategy that will underpin that. So there will be a lot of work coming in, and I think there will be funding available from Skills England that is coming for that particular purpose. So to reassure colleagues here particularly and members of the public who are watching this, when we talk about productive, inclusive and resilient economy, it's about, we're not going to leave anyone behind. It's about ensuring that we provide opportunities to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Javeria. Tom.
Yeah, I mean, there's an easy one on the rents, because all we got to do is look at how much discretionary rents we're paying in the town, which will show you just how high the rents are now. When you talk more than £1 million in discretionary payments, you know you've got a problem on your hands. But we are causing part of that problem because people we got in temporary accommodation are having to pay once you put the service charge on. We've had one at our surgery last few weeks for her internet and everything else she needs for the kids. It puts her above the LHA levels, and we're placing people into that accommodation. So it's just us fueling the inflation by the way we're doing things. But the other one, as far as I'm concerned, the important one, is where James talked about trying to get food to everyone. There's one organisation which we forget a lot on consultation, what deals with the problem kids on the estates, and that's ACE and Connections. And I've looked through the last 2 consultation lists. They're the people who are having to deal with the NEETs, for the want of the correct term for them. But we don't go and consult with them on what courses they will go on and what courses they need. So can I ask that we go and talk to ACE and Connections to see what they think those kids need? Because it's an organisation, we place kids with them and then hopefully we walk away from it. But they're the ones dealing with those kids, what we're saying we can't get through to. But the rents is that easy. I mean, Dev must rip his hair out when you've got over £1 million in discretionary rent payments going on. It answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
On the ACE and Connections things, absolutely no problem. Well, I'll make sure they go out and consult with them.
Could I just, on the ACE and the Connections piece, through the work that we're doing with DWP on Get Britain Working and the Connect to Work piece, has a specific strand around NEETs, so they will do that piece of work directly with that cohort, Councillor Shaw, so that will be absolutely picked up. It will sit underneath the economic growth strategy and part of the skills and employability piece that Councillor Javeri Hussain referred to, so it has been picked up. There's funding attached to it as well.
On the park, on Lucy Park, stolen cars and 30 kids there with motorbikes with their fathers on, and we're sat here still talking about it. You know.
So, Chair, sorry, if I just may add, absolutely, it's a good point, and it's important that we reach out rather than them coming to us. So that's a very valid point. But the other, as well as NEETs, the other, I think, group of individuals, if that's the correct terminology to use, that we will be approaching will be children in care, and because they're important as far as we're concerned as well, and it's important that we also provide them with the opportunities that the rest of the population gets in the town. But you're absolutely right on the point around us approaching them as opposed to them coming to us, because it's not always the case.
Are there any... Gerard, did you want to come in? I saw your hand go up.
It was just an additional piece of information in relation to economic inactivity, and that particular point about those who are working, those who are looking after the home, who predominantly tend to be South Asian women. It's about 8,500, 9,000 people in total that we're talking about. And in fact, colleagues are meeting on Wednesday afternoon specifically to look at that issue and what targeted interventions could be brought forward as part of the consultation process.
Okay, thank you, Gerard. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? No. Happy to agree it's going out to consultation. Thank you very much. Thank you, James. And now we move back up the agenda to the reference from Overview and Scrutiny Board and the report from Kachita on food hygiene. Do you want to take this, David, or...?
Yes, thank you. Yes, there was a great deal of discussion about this, and the committee was extremely appreciative of the work that had been done. The biggest concern that came through was that the general public still doesn't really understand some of the health things that are going on, even some of the things that we might assume are simplistic, like the grading that's on the doors. They don't really understand what those mean, or indeed how significant they are to community health. So the committee felt very strongly that we needed to be able to find a way to get that message more clearly across to the general public in our town. The second thing came that when the committee was considering the report, they were told very clearly that there was insufficient budget to be able to have the number of people doing this work within the town, even to meet the statutory requirements for the health inspection. And though I know we're always strapped for money, the committee wanted executive to specifically address that question, because they felt that the health impacts of not doing this properly could be very drastic for our town. And also, they felt that there was a risk that we could fail on a statutory duty, not just a discretionary one. So that's the reason why this recommendation came along with the report to Executive Chair.
Thank you, David. Do you want to come back and answer that as well as move your report?
Do you want me to answer them after I've moved the report? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so today's report before you sets out the Council's food and hygiene, food standards and feed law service plan for period 2025 to 2026. Like you said, it's already been to Overview and Scrutiny Board. The Food Law Code of Practice requires that the Council has a duty to produce an annual service plan. The plan must be submitted for approval by the relevant member forum or relevant senior officers. Luton currently has around 1,992 registered food premises and a further 23 premises that are registered for animal feed. It is the responsibility of the environmental health team that sits within the Safer Neighbourhood Service area to undertake this work. The service has recently appointed a new team manager and consists of 6 qualified environmental health officers who are responsible for delivering all aspects of the food law code of practice. The team are now working to new food standards delivery model which commenced at the start of April 2025, which changes the way in which businesses are risk rated, which will likely result in more visits to be made to those businesses where compliance, including with allergen procedure, is poor. It also provides for a wider range of intervention types available to officers. The plan also sets out areas around profile of the authority, team structures and scope of the food service, service delivery, including data on types of premises and enforcement action taken by the team, food hygiene and standard inspection and sampling programme for 2026. The recommendations for executive tonight is to note the content of the report and approve the food hygiene, food standards and feed law service plan 2025-26 as set out in Appendix A to the report. Going back to the question around how we communicate to the public, the service already makes use of the Council's communication team to share important information with the public and local communities. They will continue to do so and when necessary within areas that are of importance, we can emphasise more around that. The other question was around, was it resources? So we will review in line with any change or new demands, including those provided by legislation. Any request to grow the resource base will be undertaken through the business case process, as mentioned in paragraph 22 of the report. Hope that answers your questions.
No, not entirely. The intention is good, and we are already saying in the report that, for example, we're going to move forward and do in a better way things like the allergy analysis and so on. Just your own observation, when you go into most takeaway establishments, that is not visible. It is visible in some, but majority it isn't. So no, we are aiming to do more with what is already being expressed in the report as an inadequate level of resources. So if we put those two together, they don't fit.
Reassure you that with the new food standards delivery model starting this April, start of last week, it's a new way of working, so I'm hoping that it will make those changes that you require in terms of the visits to premises, but I will monitor that and keep that in mind in terms of making sure that, because it is important to make sure that premises do adhere to health and safety of food when, you know, delivering it to the communities.
So if I just summarise what I think I've just heard, which is, no, you're not actually going to, as an executive, consider increasing the resources, and therefore we won't see the improvement that the committee was asking for.
I think we need to work in line with any changes that we make. I can't sit here and just make the commitment. We've got to make sure that we know that we need, the demand is there for us to be able to increase what the officers in terms of doing that. But I think the new way of working should help us in terms of what we're going out and inspecting.
So you're moving that we note the recommendation from scrutiny then, we just note that, yes?
Yes, we will note that
and note the request to note the content of the report on the food hygiene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody clear on what we're agreeing to? Yeah. Are there any questions? Javed?
Thank you. I think one, we should look at, on our Step Forward app, anybody who's got a hygiene rating less than 5, we should use that as a carrot to say, well, you're not going to go on our Step Forward because they benefit from them. I don't think we should have any, I think we should try and look at using our Step Forward, because that's got, what, 38,000 followers on it. I don't think we should be allowing anybody who's got a high hygiene rating 5, but just to give somebody an incentive. I think I would like to see at some point, we've made a note that we should see it, because all I know is in the last year, I've seen at least 50 new hot food businesses, and the team has been the same, and we're asking more of the team, even though there's efficiency there. I think we have a duty to protect people, our residents, from salmonella poisoning, you know, hygiene, rat mice and all that, and we can't do that, and we should be. Question for you, do we expect every hygiene, every hot and food takeaway place to come to us and ask for us for a hygiene rating? Is that mandatory or is it optional for them to do it? Because not all of them have it in the window. So the question is around: is it mandatory for businesses to give their hygiene rating on their door or windows?
So it's not mandatory for them to display the hygiene rating. The hygiene ratings are all published online at the food.gov website, but they don't have to display it.
So I guess the question would be, what would it take for us to do that? Because we would want our resident person, so anybody especially who's not from Luton is coming in, they're not going to, even I wouldn't go on the website. How can we, what would it take for us to actually mandate that as part of the thing? Because we want to, I want to go into a premises, before I go in, I want to know I'm not going to, my family or my friends are not going to get poisoned there. Is it possible? I guess the question, and what sort of resource would we need to make it mandatory?
It's something that the Food Standards Agency are looking at to introduce nationally. So at the moment in Wales, it's a requirement for businesses to display their rating, but we don't have the necessary legislation at the moment in England for businesses to do that.
Thank you for that clarification. That sort of clears up the question I was asking. And also, you might take away my point about Step Forward. We wouldn't want anybody who's, you know, if they want to advertise on our Step app, then they need to get their house in order.
May I just come back in on one comment, please, Chair? Picking up entirely on what the councillor has just said, it's because the general public doesn't understand what is being done with the rating of these premises, and they don't understand why it's important to have that notice on the door, that we haven't heard more about it, because generally speaking, there is a lot of population in the town that will walk into a takeaway and they are quite oblivious to the fact that they could be walking into somewhere that was a health hazard.
I think we can go and do more communication around that, but I think the new standards in terms of going out and actually doing the inspections means that if you've got a high rating, it means we don't need to go back to those premises, because they're most likely to be, it's those ones that have the lower rating that need to have more of the visits. So the new way of working will mean that we're able to go out to those premises that need to, but we can, I'm sure we can work in terms of having a lot more communication with the community and the people there to really inform them around where they're going and what they're doing. So I'm sure we can work on that around communication. We do the communication, but we can try and do a lot more to make communities more aware.
I still am concerned, because if I've understood the report correctly, you are already prioritising those businesses that don't have a high rating, are you not?
We do. We prioritise revisits at businesses that have the poorer ratings. That's right.
Okay. Are there any other questions? James, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to challenge something that's in the reference from Overview and Scrutiny Committee, actually. I've just noticed where it says, in food hygiene terms, it's not always possible to assume that low-risk premises is without risk, particularly due to the pest control issues that are prevalent in the borough. I wouldn't say there are prevalent pest control issues in the borough, certainly not in line that it's a particular note in the report. Certainly there are issues where we have pest control problems, but we have an excellent pest control team. I wouldn't say we're any worse than any other urbanised area, and I just thought it shouldn't go without note that I just wanted to challenge that particular assumption to say that there are pest control issues prevalent within the borough, meaning that the higher levels of enforcement action are sometimes required in premises that would not normally require inspection interventions in other parts of the country. I don't think we're a dirtier town. We've got excellent street cleansing teams, excellent waste collection teams. So I just wanted to go in there and just challenge that. That's not a fact for me, and that can't go without comment.
The committee, if you listen back to the recordings, the committee wasn't being critical of that. We recognise that this report needs to get approved because otherwise we leave ourselves in a vulnerable position in terms of meeting up with the regulations. So we're quite happy with it being approved. We just wanted to make sure that the issue about trying to get better public awareness and to get more resources to do the job more thoroughly was aired here at Executive. So even if your conclusion is only to note the report, I'm happy that at least it got an airing here at Executive.
Okay, thank you, David. Any other questions or comments from anyone? No? The comments made by Kachita about the changes and things you're doing around staffing, that sounds very positive, and I hope that all works. And we're obviously going to note the scrutiny recommendation and note the report. Is that agreed by everyone? Yes. Thank you. I now ask members to accept regular